book lovers, it's Jenny at Julia Baby Jen, and today I'm going to be talking about Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. Okay, so I recently finished Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor, and this book is magic. I loved it. I love this even more than her first book in her Daughter Smoke and Bone trilogy, The Daughter Smoke and Bone. I loved that book, but I thought this one was even better. Although I didn't think it was quite as good as Dreams of Gods and Monsters. The titles are kind of similar on those two, actually, and there's a lot of similarities in some ways between the two. But I didn't think it was quite as good as that. That was just a masterful piece of writing, but this was really, really good. 5-star read for me. I think it's my favorite book of the year so far. I absolutely adored this book. Now, I'm going to talk about this a little bit. I'm going to try to do this spoiler free. The thing about this book, though, is I think the less you know about it going in, the more you're going to enjoy it because there's so many revelations that come through. So I'm going to try to be as generic as possible with this review. So I don't want to spoil you. I do want to tell you some things, but it really is better, trust me, to go in this not knowing very much. I didn't know very much when I went into it, and I'm kind of glad I didn't. There's just so much to this story, but anyway, we'll do our best here. So a basic synopsis of this, again, don't want to tell you too much, but we're following the main character, and this is Laszlo, and he is a boy who has been orphaned by a war, and any of the monks who find these children and take them, he's taken into with these monks, and any child they don't know the name of, they give their last name Strange. So his name is Laszlo Strange in this. This is a fantasy world, obviously. So he's with the monks, and when he's 5 years old, he's heard these tales. One of these monks is an old crazy guy who tells the boys these really crazy tales when they go to talk to him, but everybody thinks he's crazy and full of it, and there's no truth to these tales. But it's about this magical land with these wonderful warriors. And Laszlo just loves these stories. And one day, he can feel it. Something happens to the city, and its name is forgotten. And he can no longer remember the name of this place. But all he can think of is Weep. That's the only name that he can come up in his brain. And so the whole world kind of forgets about this city, and it's landlocked around this desert, and so it's become this myth and this fairy tale. So then Laszlo grows up and he never ever forgets that. And so he researches that, and then over time he finds this wonderful library. I would compare it to the Library of Alexandria. And they find him how much he loves the books, and so they take him on as an apprentice, and so he gets away from the monks, and then he's finished the rest of his years. He's raised in this library, and he spends all his time researching what he can find about this city of Weep. What ends up happening is, and he's older, I think he's like 19, 20, some of the warriors from the city show up in their city, and they're going around and collecting people with certain amounts of knowledge to take them back to their city to help them with the problem that they need help with. So Laszlo gets put into this mission as well, kind of by chance, and so he's going to Weep to uncover the secrets. And that's really kind of all I want to talk about, really. The other aspect of this is we're following Sarah's point of view as the story gets going, and she actually lives in Weep, and she is a monster quite a bit. There's a lot of magic in this. This is about gods and monsters. This is also a book lover's book because it's about the power of reading and books. That's very important in this. The library scenes are amazing, and then there's also just a lot of about dreams and dreamers, and there's just so much wonderful things in this story. I can't really even tell you all that's about, but that's as close as I get to a basic synopsis for you. So I loved everything about this book. First of all, if you've never read Laini Taylor before, she has very beautiful writing. It's very poetic. It takes a while to get through her books because you really have to slow down and take your time on every single word and sentence. And it's just beautiful, beautiful writing. She writes like no one else. I love, love her writing. And that is the best thing about this book is Laini Taylor's writing. About all her books, really. And then the characters, they just came alive on the page, and that we're following mostly Laszlo and Sari, but there's other characters as well. Some are good, some are not so good. Um, and they all have their own agenda, and their stories all intertwine. We're following separate stories kind of for a little while, and then everything kind of intertwines as we get going. And I love that. I love the way the story is told. Like the mystery of we start to get little clues from Sarah's perspective, but we don't know a lot until almost halfway through the book. And I really love that slow reveal. It kept me on the edge of my seat because I wasn't sure exactly how all this had happened or what all was going on or what. And that was really, really interesting. That was really beautiful. And then the plot itself was awesome. There was a lot of great twists. I love those. There wasn't a ton of action, but there was some. For the most part, this was a big setup kind of a book introducing us to the world and the characters. I really enjoyed that because it's so beautiful. I was okay with that. And it's so descriptive. Like I could picture all of this in my head so well. And it was like being in a dream or it was just wonderful. I love her books. So much imagination. So wonderful. I don't know what else I can say other than that. This is a magical book, and it is a gem. It's a diamond. It's a wonderful, wonderful read. One of the best YA books I've ever read. I really highly recommend this book. So yeah, that's all we have there. I am going to read just a couple of quotes just to kind of give you a taste of the writing. So this is Laszlo and one of his friends, and they're on their way to the city of Whip at this point. And they're all entering this contest. People are putting their name in a jar and putting money in this jar and guessing what the mystery is. And whoever is closest will win the entire contents of this purse or whatever. Laszlo hasn't made any guesses. He's actually the one who knows the most about folk tales and fairy tales and things like that because he's been studying a lot of that, and not a lot of other people do. They all think that that's all. It's fairy tales. It's make believe. They don't think there's any truth to anything that he's been reading, but there's a lot of truth to it. So he's now his friend's trying to get him to come up with a story for the mystery behind this. If I hear one more manly variation on the conquest theory, I might kill myself. But you can do better. I know you can. You're a storyteller. Dream up something wild and improbable, she pleaded. Something beautiful and full of monsters. Beautiful and full of monsters? All the best stories are. Sari had an arsenal of terrors. She was an arsenal of terrors. All these years she'd been collecting them, and where could she put them but within herself? She felt them at the core of her, every image and scene of fright and foreboding, of shame, shock, and misery, of bloodshed and agony. It was why she dared no longer dream, because in her own sleep she was like any dreamer, at the mercy of her unconscious. When she fell asleep, she was no sorceress or dark enthrallor, but just a sleeping girl with no control over the terrors within her. Laszlo's mind was afire with marvel, the lit match tossing off fuse after fuse. Burning lines raced through his consciousness, connecting far-flung dots and filling in blanks, erasing question marks and adding a dozen more for every one erased. A dozen. There could be no end to the questions, but the sketch outlines of answers were beginning to appear, and they were astonishing. So that's just a little taste of the writing in this. So leave me comments below if you've read this and want to chat about this or want to chat about Laini Taylor. I adore this book and I highly recommend it. I hope everyone has a good day, and I will talk to you later. Bye.